Hey everyone, if you're learning AWS, you have to understand you need to know the basics of compute, database, network storage, CDNS. If we talk about compute, we'll begin with virtual machines. That's also called as EC2, Elastic Compute on Cloud. Later, we'll introduce you to Lambda, which will be denoted by the icon which is mentioned in the braces, serverless computing. After that, we'll introduce you to the world of containers. And when you have too many containers, you need to have orchestrations. You will have ECS, EKS. And where you will run the containers, it will be on Fargate or on EC2. We'll talk about that further in the upcoming modules. Later on, you have something which is called as database. There are two types of databases. The very first one is relational database. And the second one is non-relational database, also called as NoSQL database. RDS will be one of the relational databases. RDS will be used when you have OLTP kind of transactions. And if you want to create a warehouse, you'll use Redshift for OLAP related queries. When we talk about non-relational databases, everyone, DynamoDB is my showstopper. DynamoDB will be used for single-digit millisecond latency. DocumentDB is also available out there. You can just go and read about Snapchat, how it implemented DocumentDB, and it introduced its single-digit millisecond latency. We have Neptune database and few more as well, which will be seen that in upcoming modules. That's it all about databases out there, everyone. Now we'll introduce you to networking. AWS is spread across 33 plus regions out there. So there are 30 plus regions available out there. Which region to choose when, where, why, everything we'll talk about it. We'll tell you the relationship between the regions, availability zones, and data centers. If we talk about availability zone, you need to know what is HA, high availability. After that, we'll introduce you to something which is called as VPC, which is logical construct. We'll introduce you to the components of VPC, which will be subnets, public and private subnets, internet gateway, NAT gateway, route tables, NACL versus security group. And lastly, we'll also talk about transit gateway, TGW. Now moving on further to storage. We have three kind of storages, everyone. The very first one would be a block storage. Think about it like a hard disk attached to your laptop. That is your EBS volume, Elastic Block Store, which is for permanent storage. And then there's a second one, which is called as transient cache, just like a clipboard. EBS volume will be into SSD and HDD available out there. Furthermore, we'll cover that in upcoming slides and modules. When you have multiple EC2 instances and you want to access the files concurrently, you'll use file storage over NFS 4.1, and it's also called as EFS. Lastly, when you have created an application and users uploading the media, you want to store it somewhere, it will be S3, Simple Storage Service. Now, when your application is up and running, everyone, you will need to have observability and monitoring into place. That reminds me of my favorite song, MLT, metrics, logs, traces. Proactive monitoring of cloud resources would be done using a service which is called as CloudWatch. Who deleted my EC2 instance? Who deleted my server? If I want to find that out, I'll audit all the logs, and at that time, I'm going to use a service which is called as CloudTrail. So CloudWatch is proactive monitoring and doing a post-mortem analysis, pointing it out at someone, it would be CloudTrail. Lastly, if you're doing a request from front end to back end and you want to understand whether the application is not performing well or the server is not configured, You want to understand 4xx, 5xx errors. At that time, you'll use a service which is called as X-ray. And before we end, I just want to talk about security, considering it's a shared responsibility. It's good to have a good understanding about IAM, about the roles for the humans, roles for the service, principle of least privilege, that is also written as POLP, cross-account access, how do you access from dev to stage, dev to prod. We'll introduce you to services like Macy, Guard Duty, and so on. And if you have been watching so far, thanks a lot. These are the basic things you need to know when you're beginning with AWS. And feel free to watch more videos. And if you have any feedback, feel free to let us know. That's it from my end.